Xbox Game Pass really is home to some incredible games, and we've seen so many to choose from this year that it can be hard to narrow down the good from the bad. Today though, what I wanted to actually do was collate a list of the 15 hidden gems that you need to check out, and simply, it's just a shame that so many of these have been so overlooked. There is a massive variety of genres here, including some Xbox first-party exclusive titles. So with that, my name is Fletcher, and this is Xbox Nation, and let's just dive right into it. First up, I have to admit it, I was one of those who did completely neglect Roboquest when it came out on Game Pass a couple of years ago now. I can officially say that that was a massive oversight on my own part, as this roguelike game is so bloody fantastic, and now I can see why so many call this one of the ultimate hidden gems on the Xbox marketplace. As mentioned, this is a high-energy roguelike FPS that throws you into a futuristic world filled with rogue robots and endless action. The game blends the best elements of classic shooters but with modern roguelike progression, making every run very different from the last. As you progress, you'll unlock different upgrades and new abilities, and you'll be able to customize your own character's playstyle to take on increasingly difficult enemies. If you love fast, fluid gunplay and the thrill of randomized runs like any roguelike, then Roboquest is a hidden gem that's totally worth playing. I know that Ball X Pit has only just launched onto Xbox Game Pass, and it's also selling rather well across every single platform, but then again, there are so many players out there who are still neglecting this game and not trying it out due to its simplistic nature. This one though is just absolutely phenomenal in every single way, and the amount of time that I've personally sunk into this one is just a lot of time. You essentially have to take on roguelike runs by shooting balls at enemies within these sort of moving corridors, and within these you get special items, fusion of special abilities, and more, alongside some pretty great looking and intense boss fights every so often. It also includes a sort of city building mechanic before you dive in each round, and it lets you sort of build housing to unlock new characters, farms, and stuff to basically generate resources and so much more. It's so in-depth and it's hard to put words into it, and it's so hard to put down, but then again, it's a game that you just have to play to understand where I'm really coming from. Astroneer is certainly a real hidden gem on the Xbox Game Pass library, and I'm still not too sure to this day why so many have actually never tried this one. This one though is set in a colourful, procedurally generated solar system where you have to take on a role of an astronaut exploring alien planets. Your primary goal is to essentially gather resources, build bases, and uncover the mysteries of these distant worlds. The game features a very unique terrain deformation system, which is rather cool, and it kind of allows you to shape the environment however you like, so you can do stuff like dig tunnels, create bridges, or just carve out some vast underground shelters. The crafting aspect and automation do play a huge role in your survival though, and the game's oxygen system also forces you to strategically place tethers or vehicles to extend your exploration range. Whether playing it solo or in the 4-player co-op mode, Astroneer offers such a relaxing yet engaging survival experience with so many endless creative possibilities. If you're craving something with a lot of speed and chaos, then let me introduce you to Descenders next, and this is the extreme sports sequel that just dialed everything up to 11. This one really did build though on the downhill biking of the original game, but it now includes the likes of snowboarding, mountain boarding, and even bigger open world playgrounds. The physics have also been overhauled in this one, and it actually lets you pull off cleaner tricks, sharper turns, and more ridiculous stunts, and in motion it's actually pretty excellent. Like the first game though, you'll of course be able to explore some massive biomes filled with loads of secrets, ramps, and hidden challenges just to see how far you can really go. But what really is awesome to see is that the multiplayer also supports up to 12 races at a time, and the overall vibe is just pretty excellent. If you want a game with a very high skill ceiling but can also be incredibly relaxing from time to time, then definitely check out Descenders next. What I loved about Eternal Strands is that it feels like a fusion of all the best modern action-adventure sort of design trends, and it puts it into all one complete package. So, picture a fantasy world where climbing, grappling, and elemental powers let you interact with the environment in different ways, and then it pits you against some towering, physics-driven monsters, and they look bloody insane. It is part sort of Shadow of the Colossus and part open world exploration, and then it likes to add in some elemental chaotic sandbox elements into the fights. Fights aren't just about swinging a sword either, you're actually going to be using stuff like fire, ice, and even the terrain itself to gain the upper hand here. The sheer creativity and just how you tackle all of the different encounters makes it stand out from the crowd, and personally I did also enjoy the story and the artistic design they really took with this game. I'm glad to see such an awesome first game for such a new talented dev team, and I really recommend it if you haven't played it before. At first glance, this game I'm showing you right now may look like a lost children's puppet show from the 90s. Then the puppets start moving and talking, and you realise something here is incredibly wrong. My Friendly Neighborhood blends survival horror with a surreal sort of Sesame Street meets Resident Evil vibe, and it's bloody insane. Instead of zombies or monsters, you're dealing with disturbingly cheerful puppets that won't stay down. Your resource management in that element is really key though, as ammo in this one is pretty scarce, and tools doubling as puzzle solvers are your real key to survival. I do love though how it messes with your expectations as well, as you kind of go in thinking bright colours and goofy voices, so you kind of drop your guard, but then something really creepy does happen, and you get taken back and ultimately want to cry in a hole. It's unsettling without relying on loads of jump scares either, and it kind of leans into weirdness of its setting instead, making it so memorable. By the end, you're not sure whether to laugh or shiver at this one, and that's why I totally recommend it if you've never played it before. For me, Lightyear Frontier is just the absolute definition of a hidden gem, and I don't think we've actually heard a single murmur or even discussion about this game in over a year. If you're with the majority here and you've probably never heard of this game, it essentially lets you step into the boots of a space farmer, and you'll have to do stuff like cultivate alien crops, build your own homestead, and then explore a lush open world planet. Instead of fighting for survival like others within this genre, instead you're actually working with the nature, so you're upgrading your mech suit to terraform the land and discover new resources. The game was initially released in a game preview state, so that's probably why many of you have never tried it before, but the amount of content updates and overhauls we've seen since the early access release has been pretty staggering. I do highly recommend it, especially as the updates for this one are pretty frequent these days. It feels like Orcs Must Die Deathtrap has been out for quite a long time now, and I was actually kind of shocked to remember that this one actually came out towards the start of this year. That in retrospect basically confirms that this game is a real hidden addition to the service, and it's kind of a shame because I really did enjoy my time with this newest entry, even though it wasn't the strongest within the franchise. Again, this one does pit you in a sort of tower defense battle against loads of orcs, but this time it actually includes 4-player co-op, which was the first time for this series. This was a great addition though, as it allowed for so many combinations, and the levels as such became so much larger and way wilder in terms of its enemy design. It was frustrating though in terms of its leveling and upgrade mechanic, and it's one gripe that I did have with this game, but it seems to have been resolved thanks to a lot of player feedback. Honestly, now is the best time to dive into it, and it's actually still got a pretty decent player base to this day. It's a shame that Towerborne launched with practically no fanfare, and it kind of just died off, and I wish that really wasn't the case. This game is so polished in so many areas, and it really is a fun time if you have a few mates to dive into this one with. This one is developed by Stoic and published by Xbox, and it's an action RPG that actually leans into co-op brawling with RPG mechanics and a stylish art direction. You and up to 3 friends can team up locally or online to tackle quests, defeat what they call Umbra monsters, and explore a mysterious overworld. It's got the bones of a long-term live service title, but what really stands out now is the tight combat and the rewarding progression loop. If you love games like Castle Crashers, you definitely need to check this one out without a shadow of a doubt, and I hope we do see it get more popular over time. Silksong may have taken the crown this year for being an absolutely insane Metroidvania, but don't let that overshadow the fact that Nine Souls was an incredible entry as well when it landed on the Xbox Game Pass, I believe back in the end of 2024. This one though is a striking indie action platformer from a developer known as Red Candle Games, and it actually blends Sekiro-style parrying with deep lore and a stunning 2D cyberpunk world that's inspired by Taoist mythology. You can think of it like the excellent Hollow Knight or Silksong as I just mentioned, but just set in a new setting, and it's one that you actually play as a vengeful warrior that's been awakened in a futuristic empire that's being ruled by some godlike beings. You're basically on a quest to overthrow them and uncover the truth of your past. The combat, as you kind of expect from these games, is very tight, fast, and focused on perfect timing as per any sort of Souls-like inspired action game. The hand-drawn art style is utterly jaw-dropping as well, with intricately designed characters and atmospheric environments that ooze so much personality. It's a real hidden gem, especially as it's been overshadowed now by the Hollow Knight series, but I highly recommend you dive into it as soon as possible. One of the largest and one of the most high-profile hidden gems of the Xbox One era has to be Quantum Break, and for me, this was actually one of the reasons I wanted to pick up an Xbox One in the first place alongside Titanfall. It might have overextended a bit with its sort of experimental TV tie-in elements, but Quantum Break has moments where its mix of sort of third-person shooting and temporal powers really do soar. That transition from sort of TV show to gameplay is actually really well done here, and it has since sort of become a cult classic within the Xbox community, with many of us calling for a sequel to this one. It is certainly worth playing Quantum Break though for those moments where you've trapped an enemy in a prism-like stasis bubble, peppered them with a soon-to-be unfrozen bullets, and then warp dashed over to another baddie for a melee takedown, all of which in a span of a few seconds. This game is like none other in the Xbox library, and if you love third-person action games, this is one for you to try. Darktide is a fantastic cooperative FPS that is of course set in the grimdark universe of Warhammer 40k. This game puts you in the role of an inquisitorial agent, battling waves of mutants and heretics in the hive city of Tertium. It's all about teamwork and strategies as well, with 4-player co-op at its real core, and when you're dropped in, you can choose from loads of different classes with their own unique abilities. The game does feature a robust progression system where you can pretty much level up and customize your character by any means, and alongside that you'll be unlocking new abilities, gear and so much more. As you can probably see on screen now, it's visually stunning, with a dark and atmospheric setting that really does perfectly encapsulate that Warhammer universe. If you love games like Left 4 Dead, then definitely don't sleep on this one, and as a massive fan of Warhammer in general, and I've been playing it for many years, especially in tabletop form, then this one is a fantastic one to dive into if you're a Warhammer fan. Compulsion Games has a real habit of just releasing games that are very mixed within the gaming sphere, and South of Midnight was yet another one of those sorts of releases earlier this year. For me, I easily still put it in my top 10 games of 2025 so far, and it's really top of that list next to Clair Obscur when it comes to an incredible soundtrack. I was actually lucky enough to get my hands on this game to review it, and my time with it was nothing short of spectacular really. This one has you following Hazel though, who's essentially called a weaver, as she searches for her mother who's been swept away due to a natural disaster. What follows is a story that's full of southern folklore, a really deep meaning of repairing the strands of guilt, betrayal, loss, and so much more. The platforming here is actually pretty solid, and although the combat isn't that great, it still does hold up pretty well, especially within the boss battles. I still rate this one pretty highly, and I recommend you try it out as soon as possible. Rage 2 is a game that I kind of booted off of a whim one day, and then I realised that 3 hours of my life had utterly vanished. This one throws you into a neon-soaked wasteland where every gunfight feels like a chaotic fireworks show, and the movement is so bloody fast and fluid that going back to slower shooters feels pretty impossible. The game doesn't waste your time either, as within minutes of starting the game, you're honestly just smashing into convoys, detonating mutant nests, and unlocking some ridiculous abilities like ground-pounding shockwaves and telekinetic blasts that turn enemies into confetti. If you've ever wanted a shooter that looks to mix that sort of Mad Max energy with superhero powers and then wraps it all in a world that's pure stylish mayhem, then Rage 2 on Game Pass is a gem that most people really do scroll past. It's got all of that id Software charm we all know and love, and I do hope we get a third entry someday. I have to say, I am quite partial to a good racing game every now and then, and we do have a few on Xbox Game Pass to this day. However, one game that many hold in high regard, especially me, has kind of been put to the wayside, and it's known as Wreckfest. This is quite unfortunate though, as this racing game is still one of the best available on this current generation of hardware, and is a ton of fun right out the gate. It's essentially a demolition derby racer that delivers realistic physics, over-the-top crashes, and some intense competition where destruction is just as important as your speed. Unlike traditional racing games though, Wreckfest really rewards your chaos, whether that's smashing into opponents in a derby arena, or just battling for first place on a track littered with debris. The game's physics-based crashes make every race so unpredictable. You've even got stuff like bus races, couch races, or even demolition derbies, including lawnmowers. Definitely don't miss this one, as it's a real hidden gem, and with the second game arriving onto Xbox consoles potentially within the next year, is certainly well worth experiencing. Are there any hidden gems that you recommend on Xbox Game Pass, especially to our community? You'll have to let us know in the comments below. Do like this video as well, as it does push it towards the Xbox algorithm, and it would be absolutely fantastic. And also subscribe for more Xbox content like this every single day. Whilst you're here though, and if you want to check out another awesome Xbox video, why don't you check the one out on screen right now? I recently covered absolutely everything coming to Xbox Game Pass in 2026, and it's well worth diving into if you want to see what's coming with your subscription.